Welcome to the Arc Stream, VoxDay, voxday.blogspot.com, and of course, Arkhaven Comics. So, as you may know, Arkhaven was very pleased to announce today the successful completion of a crowdfunding campaign for Alt Hero Q that completely replaced Indiegogo and the canceled AHQ campaign, with the lawyers putting together our strategy, figuring exactly what we need to do in order to follow the process and so forth. Obviously, we're still having some issues. I've talked to my ISP today. They're going to be working on it. I'm going to send them the stream info from tonight. We'll get this sorted out eventually. It's not YouTube. It's not Restream. It's not Stream.me. There's just obviously some issues somewhere, and we'll have to get them sorted out. And we will. But in the meantime, I just wanted to bring you up to date with what's going on. We're in the process of putting together our own crowdfunding site. We expect to have it going by the end of the month, and we're going to be making that. It's not going to be a full crowdfunding site. That's not going to be the business or anything, but it's going to allow us to do our crowdfunding from you guys without any interference from the SJWs, without any interference from the people at the various sites. Now, I can't guarantee that we are going to beat Indiegogo, but we are putting together a very compelling case, and we are going to follow through with it. And whether we win or lose, what we are going to establish is what they can and cannot do to creators on their site. Right now, they're hiding behind these terms of service that says they can do anything they want. But that's not true. Or at least we don't believe it to be true. And if it is true, then that's that's something that everyone who is possibly considering that site should know. That that they can do whatever they want, whenever they want. And remember, the woman who is running the site, the woman who is running their Trust and Safety Council is, if I recall correctly, the same individual who is running it at Twitter. So if you think that you're going to get away with any of this stuff, you're not. They are going to, police those sites as carefully and for the same reason that Twitter, Facebook, and all the other deplatforming prone platforms do. So that was an unnecessarily complex sentence. Looks like we might have slipped off again. I noticed that when the comments suddenly stopped coming in and the YouTube count stops going up, that's usually an indication that the signal dropped again, which is kind of ironic. What country will your servers be in? Chuck Dixon has completed the first script. It's already been delivered to the artists. They're working on it. And so, anyhow, when it goes down, when it stops, you need to hit reload. That seems to help. Otherwise, it'll come back on its own at some point. So, Animatronic says you've mitigated damages. That's not true. If somebody wrecks your car and you go out and buy another car, you're still out your first car. Okay? About them now, but the fact that they failed to perform on the contract is not the only issue, and we are going to be raising those things when we file our complaint. And so it was kind of funny. I was amused earlier tonight. I noticed that there was a comment on the quality of the audio and how great my microphone was. So those of you who have been following the dark streams and arc streams for a while will probably be, especially if you've been around since the Periscope days, that should amuse you. But yeah, the thing that is really great is that this community that we're building is going to start expanding not just what we're doing, but our reach. And so it's going to be interesting. We're going to have other announcements that are just as significant as this one, and we may have them as soon as the end of this month. And so, watch this space. In other news, I should mention we have a new book out, Castelia. We just are publishing a Pop Cult Warlord by Nick Cole. It's a great book. And if you're a gamer, you absolutely have to read it. Soda Pop Soldier, Pop Cult Warlord, absolutely fantastic books. In my opinion, much, much better than the Galaxy's Edge stuff that has, taken over Amazon. Pop Cult Warlord, it's out. It's only $3.99 on Amazon, and it is a novel. It's a good-sized novel. Soda Pop Soldier is already out in print. You can get the paperback from the Castelia Direct Store. It does have NPCs. What games are you playing now? Well, right now I'm learning the arbitration game. It's actually kind of interesting. The arbitration rules are very different, not very different, but they're significantly different than the rules of the courtroom and the lawsuit. And so I think that ultimately the fact that we have to go to arbitration is probably going to favor us. Not necessarily, but we'll see. Charles says, finished reading SJW's Always Lie and loved it. Pre-ordered the Jordanetics book a few days ago. Thanks. I appreciate that. I'd also recommend that you read SJW's Always Double Down, especially if you're involved in a corporation or organization. They have different focuses. And so, it's very useful in that context. Chad says he's a lawyer. That's no video game. No, it's not a video game, but, it requires success, requires some of the same tactics. Right now we are studying the rules. Right now we're pretty much finished with our research. The new release email will be tomorrow. I'm announcing it here on the on the ARC stream, but we'll be sending out the new release email tomorrow. Anyhow, it's these are interesting times, in more ways than one. I mean, tomorrow is the big election. Go out there and do it for the God Emperor. And I strongly suspect, I fully anticipate that the Democrats are going to be melting down by this time tomorrow night. Do you recommend boycotting Electronic Arts. I don't know why you would at this point. I mean, Electronic Arts has murdered more good game developers than any organization. And so, I'm not playing any EA games these days, but, I don't know why you would give up on them now. I mean, you had plenty of reasons to give up on EA back in, around in the late 90s. So, but Nate Silver's predictions, yeah, it was hilarious. He's still calling something like so. Looks like we're back live again. So, yeah, if you're going to pick up some comics, you definitely want to have a look at Alt Hero, have a look at Quantum Mortis. I'm not seeing the chat from Stream.me yet. I have an email into their support. I haven't heard anything back from them yet. So, but yeah, we're working right now with our printer. We're having some issues on. This is kind of an interesting issue. We're having issue on very large volume printings. So just for the comics, not for the books. It's a good problem to have. I mean, we're not used to having a problem where they say, well, when you print 1,000 copies, this issue starts to crop up. I mean, who anticipates things like that? And how do you test for them? So, anyhow, we're working on this stuff all the time. And so, we're going to continue to improve. Hopefully I can get this streaming issue taken care of where it's cropping in and out. I'm hoping to improve the video here in about a week or two. But the main thing is the way that you guys are supporting us, the way that you guys are supporting Archaven and Castalia is allowing us to really branch out. And it's allowing us to move into different mediums, different media than we anticipated. And so I really appreciate you guys pushing us to do that kind of stuff, because let's face it, I never, ever would have done comics without you guys pushing me into it. We never, ever would have looked at doing movies and television without you guys telling us, hey, you need to do that. I wouldn't even be doing these streams and the Voxiversities if people hadn't said, look, we'd really like to see you move into video. We'd like to see you reach a new audience, and we're willing to provide the support to make that happen. Because I can assure you, on my own, this is not how I'm spending my evenings. But anyhow, just to repeat again, are your comics good for kids? It depends which ones. Quantum Mortis is probably a little bit too mature for a 10-year-old. Alt Hero is probably better for 14 or so. And definitely Rebel Dead Revenge you don't want to read. But the Jeeves comics are great. I would absolutely recommend Right Ho Jeeves to a 10-year-old. Did you say Castalia will have their own independent crowdfunding site? Yes. That's what we are working on right now. Have you seen the latest Comicsgate drama? 2VS attempted to chastise Nurkish on his Discord channel's content. This led to Tim Lim and Nurkish canceling their Cash Grab comic. Yeah, I'm not at all surprised. It's the whole Comicsgate thing is not what it was when it started out. And so, it's now become the Ethan Van Sciver fan club, and he's not the kind of guy who can hold that sort of thing together. And so, he's not trustworthy, and people are going to eventually figure this out. So, Horatio says, Alt Hero 2 is one of the best comics I've ever read. Well, thanks very much. I appreciate that. Question about Alt Hero 5 and 6. Alt Hero 5 is done, drawn. It's now being colored, and I would anticipate that, given the usual time frame, it will be out before the end of November. Alt Hero 6 will be out in December. I need to push that. I need to get the script done on that. They're actually caught up to my script there. So, anyhow, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate what happened to Comicsgate, but it was predictable. But don't worry about it. It's not a viable situation anyhow, because they're dependent upon Indiegogo, and so they can run around virtue signaling all they like. They've now gone from declaring themselves to be against SJW stuff to now they're against all politics, but they're also against all bigotry, and they're against all hatred and all this SJW bullshit. I mean, they're actually, talking more like SJWs than anything else, mostly because they're all terrified of getting kicked off Indiegogo. So, the Jordan Edix paperback will be released on November 19th. Will Trump win the House and Senate? Yes, in my opinion. I'm not a comics guy, but I like supporting independent thought in the culture war. I would like to see our side produce an animated series. Well, that's why it's important to support comics. I mean, I don't know if you guys understand this. I didn't understand this before I got into it. But comics are the seeds that grow into television and film. When we published over 100 books and had no interest from anybody in TV and film, I got contacted by the first producer before we had published Alt Hero 2. So we get, now the more stuff that we publish, the more success that we have with this, the more people are coming to us and saying, hey, we really like what you're doing. Is there any chance we could, work with you with this or that? And so if you want to support right-wing culture, you really should be supporting the comics, because, especially now with the huge success of the Marvel movies and so forth, this is exactly what people are looking for. Is Sly Stallone involved? No, we're not working with his production company. Chuck is working with his production company, but we're not. Did Milo tell you how he figured out Peterson so quickly, or did you both know the dude was a snake right off the bat? Yeah, Milo figured it out because he read his book. And so it's pretty obvious, if you're sufficiently intelligent, when you read his book, you can see that there's no there. So, Throne of Bones 500 issue comic series. Actually, there is one illustrator who has said that is something that he would like to do as his magnum opus. I don't think we can justify that. It's something that we would have to crowdfund parts of it. Just doing the audiobook has turned out to be a massive amount of work. I think we're about 85% done now. It's showing down. Yep, now we're back again. So, came back at 20. Okay, so anyhow, what we're looking at doing is we're looking at an unlimited for the digitals. We'll come up with something eventually. We've got a lot of things that are in development. Not that subscription thing specifically, but we are always listening to you guys, and we're always interested in figuring out how we can, implement the ideas that you guys have. So, but just for summary, Alt Hero Q has been funded. The campaign 2.0 was successful. We are going to do a 2.1 campaign for 28 days, for the rest of the campaign. We've only done 2 days of campaigning for it so far, so we're going to give it a fair shake once we have our own site up. That's the good news. And then before I go, I'll just remind you, Pop Cult Warlord is now out on Amazon. Would you do Michael Malice's podcast? No, I'm pretty much done doing all media and podcasts. It never ever seems to be beneficial, and it tends to cause more problems than it's worth. So if people want to talk to me, they can shoot me an email, or come on the stream. So additional perks, sure. If you got any ideas, send them our way. So, thanks very much. Look forward to seeing you guys at the next stream. Good luck, Americans, in the elections tomorrow. Let's hope that the God Emperor has a House and a Senate at his back. Have a good evening.